welcome to another video. In this video we are going to understand how we can take our C# library code and deploy it as a NuGet package to both GitHub package repository and NuGet.org. Okay, and we are going to do that with GitHub Actions. Okay, so this schema here tries to showcase just what we are trying to accomplish. Okay, so we as a developer, we have some code that is stored in a specific version control system. In this case we are using GitHub. Okay, and inside GitHub we have a specific repository that contains our C# library code that has a NuGet package there. So the source code that we can build a NuGet package from. Okay, and our intent is to use GitHub Actions to take this source code, create a NuGet package out of it, and deploy it to either GitHub package repository or the NuGet.org feed. Okay, and so in this video I'm going to show you how you can do that. Okay, but before we move on, if you haven't yet worked with a NuGet package is just a single package library or set of libraries that is designed to be easily distributed and integrated in your .NET projects. Okay, and by using a NuGet package, you can save lots of time because you are promoting code reusability. You make your code available via that library, and by installing that library, you can reuse all of its functionalities. Okay, and you can do so in multiple .NET projects. So you can install that package in multiple .NET projects, and by doing so you avoid having to always have to rewrite that same functionality. You avoid having to duplicate code. Therefore you are making use of code reusability. Okay, and so in this video we are going to see how we can do that. Okay, how we can create our own NuGet packages, and how can we publish them to one package repository. Okay, so first off, let's just create our own C# library first. Okay, so now let's create our own C# library. Okay, let me open Visual Studio Code. Okay, I'll share the outcome of this in my repository. Okay, then so that you can see the source code and all the files we are going to create from this. Okay, so first thing we have to do is to create, as I said, our C# library code. Okay, we can do that by, as an example, creating a class library here in .NET. So let's just create. Okay, so we can do .NET new class lib, okay, which will create our class library. Okay, we can pass in a flag called -n to give it a name. Okay, and let's name it my amazing logger. Okay, now I haven't quite explained what we are going to develop here, but what we are going to do here is to create a C# library that emulates some kind of a logger that logs to a console. Okay, so that's what we are going to build here. Okay, and so here inside our newly created project, let's make use of this class here to actually create our library code. Okay, so we can rename this to my custom logger as an example. Okay, we can rename this as my custom logger, so it actually didn't change the file name, so let's just handle that as well. Okay, rename this to my custom logger. Okay, so rename, it's not allowing me to do, so I have to manually add this. So my custom logger. Okay, and here we will have our code. Okay, so let's make this static, okay, and have here our logger method. Okay, so public static void log, okay, and I just want this to have a console.writeLine message, okay, and let me call this custom log, okay. And actually, for simplicity's sake, let's do something like this, okay, v1 message, okay. The reason why I'm doing this is so that we can see in the future, when we extend this library, we can actually see different versions of this logging happening, okay. In this case, since we are working on the first version of this library, I'm prepending the log message with v1, but then once we actually have this publish mechanism automatic, we can change this to v2 and actually see our v2 code up and running, and then we see things actually changing, okay. So that's why I'm prepending this with v1, just to make it clear that things are evolving, okay. This is just for educational purpose, okay. And this is it. So this is our C# library code, okay. Now, what we need to do is to take this library code and make it available to any package repository, okay. We are going to first start with GitHub package repository and then move to NuGet.org, okay. But nevertheless, there's something in common we need to do. We need to enable GitHub actions, okay. And how do I do that, okay? So normally when you have your Git repository, you would create a .github file, okay. And as you can see, when I created this .github, I have here my GitHub icon showing up, okay. Now this .github folder normally exists for linking purposes. So when you put things inside of it, GitHub behind the scenes can do some magic with the folders that you have here and the files. As example things you can do in this .github folder, you can, as I said, enable GitHub actions. You can also create pull request template, okay. So whenever you create a pull request via GitHub, they have a specific template you can follow. You also can have code owners files and things like that, okay. So you can do some things on this .github file as well, okay. In this case, what we want to do is enable GitHub actions, and by default we can have a folder called workflows, okay. And then inside this workflows folder, we will have the code that GitHub will somehow execute whenever some triggers happen, okay. And we will see that in a second, okay. And so we need inside this workflows folder to create our actions, okay, our GitHub actions, okay. And we will create one here, just let's call it ci.yaml, okay, just to represent our continuous integrations here, okay. And as you can see here, right off the bat, I get here this kind of pipeline behavior here, okay. So that almost indicates, okay, that this is a GitHub action, okay. And now I'll copy paste here a specific manifest, okay, and we'll explain this manifest in detail for you, okay. So if you give me a second, I'll just come here to my other screen and I'll copy this and paste, okay. Let me copy this and paste, okay. Okay, and let me explain to you what this file has in detail, okay. So first of all, we give it a name, and by the way, this YAML file will publish to the GitHub package repository, okay, not the NuGet. The NuGet one, we will come back to this in a second, okay. But as I was saying, this manifest file, the first line it has is a name, okay, and this name is almost like a tag that you have, and you will see on GitHub actions once this executes, okay. You can name this whatever you want, as well as the file. Okay, I called the file ci.yaml, but you could have called it my custom workflow.yaml or anything. Okay, it doesn't actually matter the file name as much as the structure here. Okay, the structure is much more important than the naming that you use. Same here for the name. Okay, I'm calling this CI. I could have called this anything else. Okay, now on these 3 lines here, I am just showcasing a trigger. Okay, so what is the purpose of this trigger? Pretty much we need some kind of condition to happen before we execute our workflows, our GitHub actions. Okay, in this case, what I'm telling GitHub is please execute all of this file here whenever someone pushes code to our main branch. Okay, and we have in GitHub actions, you have lots of triggers. You can have workflows that execute when you do a pull request, for example, or you can have workflows that execute when you push code to a specific branch, which is what we are currently doing here. Okay, and then you have here the jobs that will execute once this trigger is activated. Okay, and you can see here that you have 2 main jobs. Okay, you have the generate version job and the package and publish lib job. Okay, each one of them have specific functions. Okay, the generate version job will be the job that is responsible for generating a version for our NuGet package. Okay, as you know, you've probably worked with NuGet packages. They have a version attached to them. That version, just as a side note, follows the semantic versioning principles. Okay, and semantic version principles is something like x.y.z. X is what we normally call the major version. Okay, normally when you do any breaking changes or very big functionalities, okay, that introduce bulk updates, okay, lots of changes pretty much, but normally you would use major for breaking changes. Okay, then you have the minor version here. That minor version normally indicates that I've added some functionality in my library, but that functionality is still maintaining backward compatibility. Okay, and then you have the patch version or bug fixing version, where you normally increment when you have any bug fix that, as I said, still maintain backward compatibility. Okay, so this would actually translate to something like 1.2.7 or 7. Okay, where this is where 1 is the major version, 2 is the minor version, and 7 is the patch version or bug fixing. Okay, and so, as I was saying, our NuGet packages, they follow the semantic version principles, the thing I just explained. Okay, now in order for you to actually generate a version for your NuGet package, you can do it in 2 ways. Okay, you can either do it via metadata on the CS_proj file, which we will see in a second how to do it. Okay, or you can use a more automated way of generating this version. Okay, I personally believe that we should always follow the automated way of developing things. Okay, because in your develop day-to-day you may forget that, okay, I changed the library, now I need to also update the version because I want this new version to override the existing one. Okay, and by having this automated, it makes your life a bit easier. Okay, so as I was saying, this job is pretty much responsible for generating the version of your NuGet package. Okay, and once it generates the version, you have another job which will take this version here, create your NuGet package based on this version, and then publish this package in a specific package repository, either the GitHub package repository or the one that that is hosted by NuGet.org. Okay, and we will see both scenarios as I've said previously. Okay, but let's first go into detail on what this job does. Okay, this generate version job does. Okay, normally when you are executing a job, you normally indicate which kind of operating system you'll run this on. Okay, and if you over this runs on key here, you will see that uses run on to define the types of machine to run the job on. Okay, so in this case, I personally normally use some kind of Linux based one. So in this case, I'm using Ubuntu. You can see the list of available machines in GitHub's documentation. Okay, now this permissions right thing here, I will explain this in a second. Okay, so bear with me for a while. Okay, I will explain why this is here. Okay, and normally a job is constituted as a set of steps. Okay, in this case we have two steps. Okay, the first one, which is normally exists, which is just to check out the Git repository. Okay, you do some kind of Git pull so that you can do some operations on that repository. So, and this is done by this actions checkout here. And then we have another step here that will actually do the magic of incrementing the version. Okay. Now I've named this step GitHub tag bump. Okay. Again, you can call this step whatever you want. Just make it clear about the intention of what it does. Okay. I've also given it an ID, and this ID will become clearer why we need it. Okay, so and in a nutshell, to access the output of this step. Okay, and then here I have the users key, and I'm telling GitHub action, hey, use this action here. Okay. This action here was developed by a developer. Okay, his nickname is another nick. Okay, and you can actually, if you go to a GitHub, you can actually see the underlying code behind this GitHub action. Okay, so you have here his repository where he showcases how to use this GitHub action. Okay, you have some options, you have some environment variables, you have some outputs, and so on. Okay, I will also attach this link in the video's description so that you can take a look carefully on how to use this GitHub action. Okay, but we are using this one. I've used it in the past. It does the job quite well, and so I'm very happy with it. Okay, so let's go back to our Visual Studio Code and continue on. So this action here can take a bunch of environment variables. Okay, the first one is a GitHub token that gives you permission to read and write from your GitHub repository. Okay, by default, GitHub has this secrets.github token available to you. Okay, which is a token that GitHub provides you with read and write access. Okay, as of today, this GitHub token only has read permissions. Okay, this is why we have these permissions right here. Okay, we need to have read and write access to our repository to generate these versions. Okay, and only using this will not be enough. Okay, we will have problems. Okay, we need to have also write access. That's why we have these permissions right here. There's actually another way to solve this. If you don't want to use GitHub's default token, you can actually generate a custom token for you and use that token here instead and remove this, okay, because the token you would generate actually has the read and write permissions to the repository. And we will actually see how to create our own tokens in a second. But for diversity's sakes, I've used this default approach here, okay, so that you can see how to do it without your custom token, okay. Now I'm providing it here, the GitHub token, okay. I'm also providing here an initial version as well. Now, beware that this initial version you will not actually generate any packages with this version, okay? So, as an example, whenever I bootstrap this action, the next version will be 101, for example. 102. I will never publish a package with this version, okay? But here on the initial version, I can explicitly tell GitHub Actions whenever I execute this action, and hey, count from this, excluding it. Okay. Now, whenever you indicate the version, you can normally use this default bump. Okay. This default bump will increment this version here that, as we know, follows the semantic versioning principles, okay? And it will increment on patch, okay? And as we know, patch is the last number here in the sequence. So whenever you run this, the first run will generate 1.0.1. The second run will generate the version 1.0.2. The third one will execute and will create 1.0.3 and so on, okay? So it will increment this last version, okay? And that's it, okay? That's the only things you need for now to properly get up and running with this. As I said, if you go to their action documentation on GitHub repository, you can actually see that you can pass in lots of other environment variables, okay? So please take a look at the documentation. It's also very good documentation. It's very explicit as well, okay? Now let's go back to our Visual Studio Code and let's analyze the remaining things, okay? So as well on this, so I have here the steps, okay? Another thing I'm telling GitHub is that, okay, this job here has an output, okay? So it will actually produce something that other jobs, for example, can access, okay? And I'm calling this output new version, okay? So as you know, our intention is to have a new version for our NuGet packages. So I'm explicitly naming this as new version, okay? Now, here, as we know, on one of our previous steps, we have generated a new version. And how do I access this version? I go to steps, I go to the ID, okay? Remember that I told you previously why we were doing IDs. We are doing IDs so that we can go inside a specific step and, for example, access their outputs as we are doing here. So I'm going inside the steps output, this steps output by its ID. So I'm accessing its output and I'm accessing this new tag output. Now, where does this come from? Because in nowhere here I specify this new tag property. This is actually an output of this action. So let's go back once again to their documentation. So if you go back here, there's this output section on the documentation. And on the output section, you have here that one of the outputs of this action is this thing called new tag. And as you can see here, new tag is the value of the newly created tag. So 1.0.1, 1.0.2, you know, this kind of versions, okay? And so if you go back to our Visual Studio Code, this is what we are accessing, okay? We are accessing one of the outputs of this action, okay? And in a nutshell, this is what this job is doing. And just to sum up, we have this job that will generate a version. Okay, this version is following the semantic versioning principles. Okay, and inside this job, I have a couple steps, and in one of these steps, I'm actually generating a version. Okay, and I can tell GitHub, hey, the outcome of these steps, please put this on an output so that other jobs can have access to this output. Okay? Okay. So now, since we have explored this get or generate version job, let's now analyze the other job, which is to actually take this version generated here and create a NuGet package out of it. Okay, so let's open this and close this for a second. Okay, now again, since this is a job, what I'm saying is please run this job on a specific machine. Okay, again, we are using Ubuntu. Okay, now I have this needs tag here, and what I'm saying is, hey, please execute this job only if this previous job executes successfully. Why? Of course, I can only access the output of a job if that job has already executed. Otherwise, what GitHub Actions will do is execute those in parallel, if I'm not mistaken. And so by using this needs keyword here, we make sure that everything gets executed in a sequential order. Okay, now again, what we are doing here is we are saying, okay, this job here is constituted by several steps. Okay, normally the first step is to just check out the repository, have access to it. Okay, in this case here specifically, the second step is to just set up a version of .NET. Okay, please make sure that this version matches the one that you have for your class library. In this case, we are building a class library in .NET 8. Okay, and just make sure that this .NET version matches the one you are building your class library with. Okay, but normally the second step is to set up the .NET version. Okay, and then we have here the third step, which will actually generate the NuGet package. Okay, now as you can see here, this command is a bit verbose, so let's analyze each instruction one by one. Okay, so if you want to generate a NuGet package, normally you use this .NET pack command. Okay, the outcome of this .NET pack is a NuGet package. Okay, normally the format, the extension of this is NuPKG. So the outcome is something like oh, I have it here down below. Okay, it's this format here, NuPKG. Okay, so this is the NuGet package that you generate out of this .NET pack. So you pass here the place where your code is. So since we so normally this manifest file executes as if it was on the root of your repository. So our repository should be called my amazing logger. Okay, and so this is where we should do our packing on. Okay, so this is the file. Okay, it executes as if it was on the root. Okay, And now we have the dash dash configuration release. So normally you would use the configuration release because when you do so, you tend to produce more performant and bundles that are smaller. Okay, so whenever you do your packaging, when you actually use a release build, the bundles are smaller. The overall process it's much more efficient. Okay, so your bundles are a bit smaller. Okay, then here comes one of the important things. Okay, I have another flag here in which I say I want to set this package version. Okay, this is actually the place where we specify the version of our NuGet package. Okay, and as you remember, we actually generated an output on the previous job that had this version. Okay, the only thing we have to do now is to somehow access this output. Okay, and this is how we do it. We have this needs, which corresponds to this keyword here, which we have spoken. On the things I need, please go inside this job that I need, access the outputs of it, okay, and please access the new version output. Okay, so let's do this again, okay? Minus P or dash P represents the and the package version represents the package version you want to attach your NuGet package to. And as we know, previously we have generated a version as an output of this job. How do we access this version? First, we go to this dependency we have on this job called needs. This needs depends on a generate version job. So we are actually now inside of this section here. This section here has an outputs section where we define the outputs of the job. And inside the outputs, we actually have defined, hey, I have a new version output that you can access, okay? And so whatever output you define here, it will be accessed here inside this this expression here. Okay, so this will actually be evaluated to whatever is here on this property call. Okay, then we have this minus p repository URL. Okay, this is just some metadata definition. Okay, we will see in a second how we can do this in a better way. But this is just something I would like to showcase to you how to do it manually. So normally when you generate NuGet packages, you can pass to those NuGet packages some metadata that helps to give more info about the NuGet package itself. One of these metadata is the repository URL, so the repository where the source code for the NuGet package is located. Okay, and in this case, this is where I have my where my NuGet package source code is located at. And also on this .NET pack command, I'm passing in the output directory of where I want this NuGet package to be located after this .NET pack command executes. And what I'm telling this command here is, hey, please, in the directory you are running, please put my NuGet package inside this packages output folder, okay? And so this is a visual understanding of what this .NET pack command does, okay? Now, after this step executes, we will have a folder called packages, and inside that folder called packages, we will have our NuGet package stored there. Okay? And by default, the name of that package is the name of the assembly you are on. So therefore, if you don't override this with some metadata, which we will see in a second how to do it, okay? But by default, your .NET package will be called will have the prefix of the assembly that it's located on. In this case, you would see something like myamazinglogger.nupkg, okay? Which we will actually see once this is deployed that this is actually true. So as I was saying, inside this packages folder, I have my NuGet package. And now I need to tell, take this package and publish it into my own package repository. As I said before, what we want is to publish our, in this first step, of course, we want to publish this NuGet package into our GitHub package repository. Okay. But first, before we actually go and see that, let's analyze this command. Okay. So how do I take a NuGet package and publish it to a specific repository? It doesn't matter if it is the GitHub package repository or the NuGet.org feed. Okay, the way I do it is by running this .NET NuGet push command. Okay, so this is how I tell .NET, hey, please publish this package. Okay, now here I can say to the .NET push command the package or packages that I want to push, to publish. In this case specifically, I'm telling .NET, hey, I have this folder here called packages, and inside of it, please push any NuGet package I have. Okay, so this is a wildcard here. Okay, the star is a wildcard. I'm telling, hey, publish anything here. Okay. Now for this command, I have two inputs that I need to provide to it. Okay, the first one is, where is the place I'm pushing to? Okay, and in this case, as I told you before, I'm pushing to the GitHub's package repository. Okay, and this is each individual user by default has their own NuGet package repository, and this is the structure that it has. So this is nuget.package.github.com, your username and index.json. So if your username is, I don't know, custom John, I don't know if it actually exists, and if you exist, I'm sorry. So if your name is custom John, this is what you should put here. Okay, so you should put here your username. Okay, in my case, my username is this one here, right? And so that's what I'm running with. Okay, but this is a very structured thing here. So here you put your username, okay, and the rest of the structure remains the same. Okay, cool. Now, as I said, so you need to indicate the source where you want to publish this NuGet package to. Okay, but you also need an API key that has permissions to do the push, because otherwise anyone could push to my NuGet package repository, I could push to your package repository, and so on. So we normally need an API key that showcases, I have a permission to actually push this to this repository. Okay, and in this case, I'm accessing a private token I have created as a secret. Okay, now how can I do this? Okay, how can I generate a token that has permissions to push a NuGet package to my GitHub package repository? Okay, and I can access my secrets on my action via this secrets.and secrets name. Okay, and we will see how to do that just right now. Okay, so if you go to your GitHub profile, okay, so this is the repository that I'm going to make available at the end of this video. Okay, so if you go to your profile and you go to settings, okay, you can come to this okay, here, developer settings. Okay, So just to showcase you again, once you click your profile, you can go down below in your profile and access developer settings, okay? And inside here of this developer settings, you have your personal access tokens. Okay, this is where we are going to create the secret to actually publish packages for us. Okay, so if you come to tokens classic, okay, you see I have some tokens here. Okay, I'll just delete those. I don't need them anymore. So we can create our own tokens. Okay, now let's create a token for our GitHub action, okay? I'll put my username here. Now, we can put here any note we want, okay? So GitHub actions token, NuGet, okay? You can call this whatever you want. I'm just putting here a note just so that we understand how this is going, okay? Or what this is for, as it is mentioned here, okay? And now we need to take this token and give it the proper permissions, okay? Now, what permissions do I need? I normally just put repo, workflow, write packages, and delete packages, okay? This is enough, okay? Theoretically speaking, you just need these workflows, but I normally put those. It's a more generic access token, okay? And now having these permissions, you can now come here and generate token, okay? Now beware that you need to copy this token, okay? Otherwise, whenever you refresh this page, you'll lose access to this token, okay? So let's copy this token because it will be needed for us to generate a secret in our GitHub action, okay? Now, how do I create a secret in my GitHub action? So let's come to our repository, okay? Let's go to settings, okay? And we should have here something called actions, okay? Which represents, generally speaking, the actions that will execute out of this repository. We will come back to this in a second. But here, inside this secrets and variables section, you have actions, okay? And this is how you create your secrets, okay? Now, I'm going to create a repository secret, okay, that will access my personal access token here, okay? And then that token has the permissions to publish my package, okay? So let's create now here a secret, okay? So the name I gave this here was push_NuGet, so I'll keep consistency and I will call this here push_NuGet. And the secret will be the token you just copied here, okay? And you can add this token here, okay? And boom. Now you have your secret created for you. Now, what happens is that whenever your GitHub action will execute, it can now access inside of secrets this push_NuGet secret which we just created, okay? And this secret has our API key that has the permissions, as you saw, to publish package, okay? Now, you might ask yourself, how do I see this in action? Well, we just need to take this code and push this code to our source control, okay? So let's give this a message. So init, okay? So this just has our bootstrap code and our CI pipeline, and I'll just do this, okay? Just commit and push. Okay, so this was successfully committed, okay? Now, if we go back to our repository here, I told you that we had these actions here. This actions part represents the GitHub actions that will actually execute when some trigger is activated, okay? In this case, what I've done is I've done a commit to main, okay? And as we saw before, a commit to main would actually trigger my action to run. So if I click on this actions here, you will see that, hey, the action as executed for my commit called init, And you can see here the CI tag, and this CI tag is the name we have given this here, okay? And we've seen that, hey, I have this green light, so everything went well. And if you take a look here inside, you'll see that this has two jobs, okay? The generate version 1, and then after this successfully executes, we have the other one, which I've mentioned previously, okay? But I don't know if you noticed as well, when you do a commit, you actually see here this green arrow here, or the success, the check mark. Okay, so you can see here, hey, this commit has successfully run an underlying action. Okay, so now you ask yourself, hey, I have published, everything was successful. Where can I see the package that was published? Well, if you take a look in my on this right hand side, you'll see here, hey, we've actually published our package, okay? And so if you click here on package, you see here you see here that I have my package here, my NuGet package, okay? So if you take a look at our code, and I told you that the name by default was the name of the assembly that it's running on, okay? So here, as you can see, I have no metadata defined here or anything. I just have this my amazing logger here, and this was the name that my package was given. Okay, we can override this name, and I will show you in a second how to do it. Okay, so you could clearly see now that I was able to publish my NuGet package to my GitHub package repository. Now, you also have, if you go to your profile, you have this packages thing here. This is where you can see all the packages that you have published to your personal feed. So if you come here, you'll see that I have a bunch of them, and amongst this bunch of them, I have here this one, which is the one I just published. Okay? And so we have created this package, and that package is being published to our GitHub package repository. We will see in a second how we can use this package. But first, let's see how we can do the exact same thing, but for NuGet.org. Okay, let's see how big of a work it is to change from one to the other. Okay. Now, first thing I'll do, I have here on my other screen, I have the YAML file for the NuGet.org push. Okay, and I will just copy paste this here, and you will see what will change. Okay, let's do this. Okay. So this is the manifest file for NuGet.org, and if you go here to the changes, you'll see what has changed. Okay, of course the name is not correct, so it should be my amazing logger. Okay, because that's the name of our project. Okay, but if you take a look here, the only thing that has changed is, besides the name of our API key, is the source to which we are publishing to. So the rest of the manifest file remains exactly the same. So it is actually very cool. Okay, the underlying maintenance of this is very small. Okay, so just to recap, if I want to publish this to our NuGet.org feed, the only thing that changes is this source. Okay, it has to point to the NuGet.org source. Okay, and of course the secrets, you can actually override the other secret with the new key that I'm about to tell you how to do, but I just created a new secret here just for simplicity's sake. Okay, just to have those two up and running in parallel. Okay, now as you might have guessed, I've created a secret, which means that behind the scenes I need to generate an API key that gives me permission to publish to NuGet.org. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, Now, first thing I advise you to do is go to NuGet.org and create an account here. Okay, you actually need an account to publish things to NuGet.org. Okay, and once you sign up and create your account, you have this section here called API keys. Okay, you click on this, okay, and you can create your own API keys. Okay, pretty much like we've done for GitHub, but in this case it's for NuGet.org. Okay, now let's give this a name. I just called it my awesome NuGet key. You can call this whatever you want. A package owner, it's me. Okay, so I'm putting myself as the owner, and then this should have permissions to push new packages and new package versions. Okay, if you have other packages here, which is normally what I have, you cannot just create it. It forces you to pass in a pattern. So I'm just putting here a star symbol here. Okay. And now let's just create my API key. Okay. And you can see here that I have my API key. So I need to copy this, and now let's create a secret in our repository for that API key. Okay, so we can come to secrets and variables, come to actions, and generate a new repository key. Okay, now this key will have the value of what we just copied. Okay, just copied this secret. Okay, and in the name we will come to our CI/CD and copy this name. Okay, we are going to copy this name and paste this name here. Okay, so that it matches with what we have currently. Okay, and now I'll add this secret. Okay, now how do I see this in action, you might ask? Well, we have actually updated the CI file. So what we need to do is actually commit this. So change NuGet feed to NuGet.org. Okay. And once we commit this, this will commit to main, and this will run again. So everything will run. Okay. So let's just commit and push. Okay. And see this in action. Okay. So when you commit something, if I refresh here, you will see a couple things. Okay. So first thing you will see is that on the commit, you have this dot here, sync pending, which means that you have a GitHub action that is running. Okay. And if we go to actions, we see that this action is running here. Okay. And if we come here, you should see the steps executing. Okay. So now I'm generating my package version, and now I will I will take this version that I generated here, and I will publish this to NuGet.org. Okay, so this can take a while, so I'll come back in a second. Well, as you can see, everything was successful. Okay, we were able to publish our package to NuGet.org. Okay, now let's go to our NuGet.org profile and let's see if this actually did anything. So I can come to my profile and click on manage packages. Okay, published packages. Okay, this is the current packages I have, and in unlisted packages you will see I have my amazing logger. Okay, now just bear in mind something. Okay, when you actually publish something to NuGet.org, it takes a while for it to take this package from unlisted to published. So it might take a while for you to actually see this thing in action. But what I would like you to see here is two things. Okay, first let's go back to our profile, our repository here. Okay, as we know, we have published a package here. Okay, now if I click this package, you will see now that the version that I ran, when I ran this on the GitHub package repository, the version I had was 101. Okay, so actually it was not 100. Okay, so I actually told you about this issue. Okay, the initial version that you set in here will not be the version that it will start generating values from. It will actually increment upon this. So the first version it creates is 101. So it actually bumps updates, increments this number here, which is the patch. Okay, but now if you actually took a look carefully, you would see that the version that we published to NuGet.org was 102. So it actually incremented the patch here. Okay, so actually the setup we have here is properly working. So whenever I published the first time, it generated 101. It was stored on the GitHub package repository. Okay, but when I switched this to NuGet.org, it incremented this again, and it incremented to 102, which is the version we have in NuGet.org. Okay. Now, in a few minutes, you will see that this package. Oh, there we go. This package is now here on the published side. Okay. Now, what we've done so far was I have a C# library. I have this library. I published this library into a NuGet file. This NuGet file is on the GitHub's package repository and NuGet.org. But now I need to use this package. Okay, and this is what we are going to see next. How do I take this package and use it? Okay. Okay, cool. So now let's create a project, and that project will make use of our NuGet package. Okay. Now I have here this folder that will contain our project that will use the NuGet package. Okay, we'll create here a console app that will make use of it. But before, we need to understand how to use the NuGet feeds. Okay, now you need to in your local environment, you need to see if you have attached to it the NuGet.org feed, which comes by default. Okay, and also your GitHub package repository feed. Okay. Now, how do you see the package repositories that your local .NET is connected to? So you can use the .NET NuGet list source command. Okay. This command will tell you how or what are the sources you have. Okay. In my case, I only have NuGet.org as a source. Okay. So if I want to use the package we just published to NuGet.org, I can use it. But what if I want to use the package that I have on my GitHub package repository? You cannot use it because it's not here registered. Okay, how do I do it? Okay, so the way you do it is by running the following command. Okay, .NET NuGet add source. Okay, and you can put here your source. Okay, what is your GitHub package repository source? Okay, now if you remember, the one that I've used was my own. Okay, was my own, and it's not here. I have it pasted somewhere. Is this source here? So I'm copy pasting my source and putting it here. Okay, paste. Okay, so this is my source. Okay, and you can give it a name. Okay, this is and you can give this source a name. This happens to be NuGet.org, but you can give it a name to your feed -- name. My GitHub NuGet feed. Okay, you can give this a name. Okay, and now if you run this command again, you will see that now you have a NuGet feed. Okay, that actually uses the package. Okay, but I will remove this one here because I'm not interested in using my package from GitHub. I will use it from NuGet.org. Okay, mostly because they have the same name. I may have some conflicts, but nevertheless, you need to add this source if you want to use the package, the NuGet package you have on your on your um, on your local GitHub. Okay, you need to do this anyway. Okay, now how do I remove the a specific source? I think the command is .NET NuGet remove source, and you can use this thing here. Okay, the name you have given. Okay, and you have removed your source. Okay, now if you run the list source again, you only have the NuGet one. Okay, so having said that, let's now use our NuGet package. Okay, so what I will do is I will just use .NET new console. Okay, I will give it a name using NuGet console. Okay, and this will create my project. Okay, now I want to use our amazing logger here. Okay, I will just run this command here, and this command will install this package. Okay, okay, so we have here our console app. So let's go to it and do .NET run, just to make sure that everything is up and running. Okay, you should see hello world printed in our console. Okay, can take a while. Okay, now you see that this is actually printed. Okay, now let's install our NuGet package. Okay, as you can see, I have nothing installed here. So what I'll do is I'll run the command to install the package that I've just copied from NuGet.org. Okay, now if I come here, I should paste this command and I should run this. And now you should see that we have installed the package successfully. How can I see that? Now, if you come to the CS approach, you will see here that we have a reference to our logger. Okay. Now, how can I use my method? So just remembering, just as a refresher, we had the custom logger. Okay, custom logger dot custom log. Okay, so we need to make use of this. Okay. Now let's go to our program file. And by the way, I have lots of problems with Visual Studio Code, so I'll try to see if this works well. But if I use custom logger what was the name of the method? Was custom log, right? Was custom log. Okay, dot custom log. Okay, custom log. Okay, and I'll pass in here a message. Okay, called I'm using my NuGet package. Okay, okay, and of course I need to import this. I need to import my custom logger. And let me just copy the namespace here, okay? Just because my Visual Studio Code has some issues sometimes, okay? Now, if I run this program, I should execute it successfully. Why? Why? Because okay, I'm using the method from my our NuGet package. Okay, so let's now .NET run and let's see how this goes. Okay, now it should take some time as well, and you can see here. Okay, V1, I'm using my NuGet package. Okay, so you see here that I'm using my new version of my NuGet package, okay? Now let's do something, okay? Let's update this version to be v2, okay? Now let's go to our library, because of course normally a library evolves over time, and so you would want to evolve things out. And let's just do something. Let's change this to v2, okay? v2.0, okay, just to be fancy, okay? And now let's commit these changes, okay? So update library, okay? Now let's push this library. Okay, what we expect to happen is I pushed this to GitHub. Okay, GitHub will run my actions. Okay, for my commit. Okay, as you see here, it's running action, my action. Okay, I can view the action. Okay, and after this action successfully runs, my package will now be available with a new version, okay, on NuGet.org, okay? And so once this is done, you will see that, okay, our package was just published and everything went well, okay? Now, if I come to NuGet, okay, and I refresh this page, okay, it might take also some time to see new package versions as well, okay? So if I come to my package here, okay, it might take a while to see our package version, okay? But if we come here, let's see if we can find out what was the package version that we have published, okay? See here, we have published 103, okay? So, and as I was saying, and I keep saying the same thing, it may take some time for NuGet.org to actually process this new version here, okay? So, but as you can see here, regardless, you can see here that we went from 102, which was the old version that we had, to a more recent version, 103, okay? So let's see if we are successful now in seeing this new version. No. So let's just wait a couple minutes and I'll make sure that I use the latest version and we'll come back in a second. Well, you just need to wait a few minutes and we will see that the new version of your package is here up and running. Okay, another way that you can see if your version is still being considered is if you come here to the versions tab, you'll see that the version here is as listed, okay? Previously, when I was showing you that here was only 1.0.2, in the versions tab, actually there was version 1.03. The status was just verifying or pending or something like that, okay? But you need to wait a few minutes and then you'll see the latest version here as well. Now, one thing you need to also have in consideration is if you come to your code, okay, and you update right away to 103, it will not work. It will not work because this takes time to properly index in NuGet.org, and therefore if you try to use the package here, it will take some time. It will take some time. You will not actually see the package. The package is not yet indexed, and so it will not be possible to use the package. So it might take a while. It might take 10, 15, 20 minutes for the package to be actually visible. So don't worry if it takes some time, okay? Now, as I was saying, we published the package. Okay, so the package is up and running in NuGet.org, but how do I actually use the package? So if you remember, we've published a new version, okay? So I can come here and just use the new version of my package, okay? .NET here in .NET, okay? And then let's see what gets published now, okay? So if I do .NET run, okay, I should be able to see the latest version of my package, okay, which if you remember correctly, it's now v2.0 instead of v1, okay? And now, as you can see, now we have v2 0. I'm using my NuGet package, okay? And just remembering, just to remember what we've done so far, if you come here to the to GitHub, to the actions folder, you will see here that the actions section, you will see here that we have the update library, which was triggered when we did a when we changed our library code, and then this triggered a new version and a new publish and so on. So we have successfully created an automatic mechanism that whenever you push something to your main branch, that will trigger the actions to run, okay? And so whenever you update this, your GitHub actions will run, okay? And that covers pretty much what I wanted to share as far as creating a package, publishing a package, and so on. But there's something that I need to speak with you as well, which is how can I add metadata to this package? Okay, if you remember previously when I was creating this YAML file, okay, the workflow YAML file, I've stated to you that I can pass in, for example, the repository URL, and this is metadata for the NuGet package. But there's other type of metadata that you can pass in to your when you're creating your NuGet package, okay? You can pass that metadata as info here on the .NET pack command, but you can also do it manually and make this command look a bit shorter, and you can do so by putting that metadata here inside the CS project, okay? And when you do the .NET pack command, it will automatically take that metadata that you have put in place in this CS proj file, okay? Now let me show you a project I have with this metadata, and to show you how that metadata that you add will be translated to NuGet.org, okay? So this is another project I have, okay? And one thing you can see here is that I have all of these tags here, okay? This package ID, version, authors, company, and so on, okay? And this is metadata. Okay? This is metadata that you can add to your CS proj file, and that will then propagate to NuGet.org, okay? Now just beware that if you publish your package in GitHub package repository, you might not see some of these metadata visually, but nevertheless it's important to have this metadata because it allows you to have more information about your package, and it helps your package to be more easily located depending on the tags you use, okay? Now let's see what each one of these means, okay? So you can here have package ID. The package ID will translate to the package name here in NuGet.org. So as an example, if you remember, by default, the name of the package will default to the name of the assembly as you have here. So my amazing logger, when we did the .NET pack, it was translated to the package name. Now you can override this default behavior by just passing in package ID. You can also, as I said, put the version manually, but the problem is that you would have to always update this, okay? Which can make the manual error and human error more likely to happen, in contrast to a more automatic approach like the one we've been following, okay? Then we have authors and company, which pretty much is info about who created and maintains this package. Then you have a small package description, which will also showcase in NuGet.org. I will show you in a second how come, but this is just a short description of the package that you are developing. Here is the license, okay, the license agreement that you are attaching to your package, so if people can freely use it or and whatnot. So there's lots of licenses that you can use for open source software, okay, and whatnot. Also, you have here the tags. The tags are just a set of comma separated values you can pass in, and they allow you to more easily search for your NuGet packages. So think of tags as just that. Our tags are extra metadata you can pass in. If someone searches for cache or caching or Redis, my package can now show up to them, because the tags, they help your package to be more easily searchable, okay? And then you have the repository URL, which is indeed what we actually pass in here as the flag, you see. So this repository URL flag here is the same as you have here on this XML tag. Okay, so pretty much everything can be put here on CSproj file as metadata, and then whenever you pack your project, that metadata will then be naturally propagated to the NuGet feed you use, okay? Now let's see how this metadata here on the CSproj file can navigate and propagate to NuGet.org. Okay, just keep in mind that perhaps some of this metadata might not actually show up in GitHub's package repository. Okay, let's just come here to my amazing logger first before I show you the other example, and you will also see here that I have the source repository. Why do I have this info here right away? Because when I did the .NET pack, I've passed this info. Okay, and so because I passed this info, I can now see here, and if I click, I will go to the origin repository that actually created that package. Okay, now of course you have also this package here, okay, this GitHub package, and you can also see here that in this case I can also come and reach the repository that originated this package. Okay, but anyway, let's see a more complete example. Okay, so I will take, as I said, this example I have here, more complete example, and put this here, okay? And let's see how this looks like, okay? So this is the complete example in practice, okay? So this is a NuGet.org example, okay? And so I just want to show you the following, okay? Whatever you put on your package ID, which I remember this is actually the package name, okay? You can see it here. Whatever you put in the version tag will show up here, okay? In our case, this is auto-generated, okay? Whatever you put as the package description here will show up here, okay? And then you have here the source repository, which I just show you, okay? Anything that stays, inside this repository URL tag. And then the tags that you create are also show up here as well. Okay, and of course you also have here the owners tab and so on. Okay, and here you have the license as well. Okay, so as you can see, the metadata we create here will show up on NuGet.org. Okay, if you compare, for example, with the example I have here nothing. I don't have here any tags. I don't have here any description. You see, here should be the description, below the owners I should have the tags, and I should have a license, and here I have nothing. Here I have nothing. The only thing I have is you see here on package description, it's empty. I have nothing. Okay, and I have here the source repository just because I passed that flag when I did .NET pack. Okay. So just to sum this up, of course, you can add metadata, and that metadata will give more info about the package that you are trying to publish, okay? So beware that you can even enhance further your NuGet package with all of this info. Okay. So, and that's pretty much all of what I wanted to share with you today. Let's just do a small summary, and let's go back to this diagram here that I showed you on the beginning. So we are a developer. Okay, we saw that we can have our code in a version control system. In our case, we used GitHub, a GitHub repository. Okay, and this GitHub repository contains the source code for our NuGet package. Okay, just to remember, our source code is here inside of my amazing logger. Okay, and then on some specific triggers, what happens is that this source code that is on our version control system will then be published to a specific NuGet package feed. Okay, you can choose which one you want. You can even publish to both. Okay, the point is that you can take this code, which is on your repository, and you can promote this code to a specific package repository. Okay, and you can do so by using GitHub Actions. Okay, so we saw an example here of how we can publish it to both GitHub package repository and NuGet.org. Okay, and we saw how to do that. Okay. And yeah, that's all I wanted to share with you this week. And I wish you a great day. Thank you.